Listen, a lot of people overcomplicate retirement planning. It's as simple as your legacy plus your living expenses. And then once you're comfortable and once you're ready, you move on into retirement. Now, I know I just oversimplified one of the most important events of your life, but ultimately, I want to give you peace by helping you understand how you can retire with peace. So last week, I did share a video about that, about living expenses and about your legacy and how that's able to give you a clear picture of retirement. But this week, I want to further break that down and show you an actual example, a case study here of how you can find that number for yourself in retirement. So before then, I just want to go over a few quick things and then we'll move right into the example and we'll get you on your way. Retirement's really important to start with a vision. By being able to have a vision of what you want for your retirement, what that includes from both an essential and a non-essential spending, discretionary spending is another way you can put it, is very helpful to have. If you know that you want to travel a lot in retirement or that you want to take care of your grandkids, whether it's education or just being able to spoil them, as grandparents would put it, those are very important considerations to make prior to retirement, because we have to first cover your non-discretionary, your essential goods in retirement, being able to take care of a mortgage, being able to take care of rent, gas, groceries, the things that you have to live off of. That is our essential number. From there, you can move on to discretionary, such as travel and grandkids, like I mentioned. Well, today's example is just going to show you what that number looks like for you. I also want you to be considering your income sources in retirement. Okay, how early do you want to be tapping into your investment portfolio, your 401k, your traditional IRA, your Roth IRA? What does that look like for you, and how you're going to be able to do that in a way that doesn't allow you to get killed with taxes from the IRS? How do you factor in Social Security, pensions, annuities, things that you currently own and are going to be using to replace your income in retirement? Remember, essentially what we're talking about with retirement is just being able to replace the income that we were making in our career. So by being able to have a clear vision of what this looks like is going to give you a lot of peace moving into retirement. Before I move into the exercise here, let me just give 3 things to stress test your plan. You always want to remember that projections are just that. And while today's video I hope is helpful for you, it's just going to be an introduction to a conversation I'd advise you to have with a financial advisor or with your spouse and someone that you trust. But always keep in mind, inflation is going to make plans a little bit more difficult to plan for. We have no idea what inflation is going to look like in the future. Just this year, it's been about 3%, but if you look back even a year and a half to 2 years ago, it was as high as 9%. So this greatly changes someone's retirement. Another thing is market variability, right? How roller coaster is your ride in retirement with your portfolio that you have? I'm coming out with another video soon that will touch on that. And finally, longevity. Longevity is going to be not a risk, but something that everyone has to confront, and if they live longer than they actually expect, okay? So let's move into the video, or let's move into the exercise now, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so as I was saying a moment ago, everything starts with a vision of what your retirement looks like. And unfortunately, that vision has to start with when you die. That's pretty morbid. But essentially what we're talking about is, if you're planning on retirement, how long are you planning on living? Because that's going to play a big factor in how much you can spend per year, of course. And I do want to give you some probabilities here, again, to further the morbid conversation here, right? So let's say that we have John and Sally. These are 2 fictional clients, but they look a lot like your everyday retirement couple, which I assume you may or may not be, but essentially what we want to show you here is what your retirement timeline might look like. So let's say that John's planning on retiring next year. He is currently 64, he's going to be 65. So if he retires at 65 and we plan on him living to 92, he has a probability of making to age 92 of 28%. So that's not that great. And normally this is when the husband in the meeting makes a joke, well, I don't even want to live that long. And his wife's probably going to agree. So what we're going to do is move him down to 88 years old, which, pretty good, John. You got a 45% chance of making it. So basically a coin flip at that point. So because of that, I'm going to actually move him back up to an 89. And Sally, women are just tougher than men. I didn't make them that way. God made them that way. But essentially, even Sally does not have a great chance of living to 92, but because women live longer than men, we're going to leave her there, okay? So let's move forward knowing that their retirement duration, their time period, is going to be 28 years. So John and Sally are not planning on moving from Texas. It is the second best state in America, behind a mystery state. I'm just kidding. I don't actually have a best state in America right now. Maybe my Wyoming. Okay, so let's see what they want to spend per year. This has them spending $170,000 per year from 2031 to 2055, and that would be when John passes away. and then Sally needing less to live off of, so she lives off of $135,000 per year. You can see that broken down from a monthly standpoint. So this is where I encourage you, if you have a financial advisor or if you have this conversation with your spouse, think about what you're currently spending, okay? Because what you're currently spending is going to look a lot like what you're spending in retirement, and you might be able to subtract a mortgage, but you might have to add, say, medical expenses, travel expenses, things of that nature. And we'll get to some of that discretionary spending here in a moment, but just start with the essentials like I mentioned a moment ago, and then we'll move into the discretionary, but knowing what you're going to be spending on an annual basis, but maybe make it easier on yourself, break it down from a monthly standpoint. So once you have that figured out, that's going to be a big hurdle. But once you have that figured out, then we can move on. But let's talk about something that wasn't factored in, and that's healthcare expenses. Now, once you turn 65, Medicare kicks on. If you retire prior to 65, you're going to have to go out and find private health insurance or some form of COBRA with the current company that you're at that's just an extension of your healthcare. Listen, talk to someone who's retired. This is one of their least favorite parts about retirement is finding healthcare. But what we find is with John and Sally, they're averaging roughly a little over $6,000 a year in their average annual cost of care. And if you remember, they're both over 65, so what we're talking about is Medicare here. So don't get your hopes up. It's going to be more than this if we're talking about private medical care. So let's move on, knowing that in addition, we've got about $12,600 for Sally. So those are their two personal goals right now. There's nothing crazy, just basic living expenses and healthcare. And essentially what that gives us is a goal summary here, and that is that broken down again. So here, this is where I encourage you now. You have your main items taken care of. You have your mortgage, you have your rent, you have your groceries, you have everything that you're going to spend, and you have your healthcare taken down. So now let's get into some of your wants and your wishes. So let's say that you wanted to travel in retirement. We'll add that to the list here. Is it going to be one time? Is it going to be recurring? Well, I'll tell you what I see is a lot of people, once the second person retires, when we stop traveling, we're going to do it 10 years, okay? 10 years in a row, we are going to do this. And I got to move my big head here. The cost of travel would be about $20,000, we'll say for this instance. Being able to factor these things in is very important. A wish, again, this is just something that you hope you can do. Well, it would certainly be nice to help someone with college. My goodness, I am not paying the whole thing. I'm sorry. I'm only going to give you, we'll call it $5,000. Go crazy for 4 years, and we're going to stay our grandkids starting. So you see what I'm doing here. I'm just building out a normal plan, and I would just have you kind of emulate this, because this is something that's going to be helpful. You don't need technology. You can do this on a pen and paper. You can do this in conversation, but being able to have a written down financial plan would put you in front of significantly more retired couples in America. So this is a good place to start. Okay, so then what we move on to is our goal summary. You have a breakdown of all of your goals in order of importance, right? You have your needs, your wants, and your wishes. You have your timeline of when they are to begin, right? You want to travel for the first 10 years, I think I had it. You want to pay for college for 4 years starting 10 years from now. And then you have your expenses for both medical care and for basic living expenses over time. And you're also going to see how these increase with inflation over time. So there are a lot of things technology is good at. Retirement planning is one of them. So folks, I know this was a high-level video. If you have any questions on this, please don't hesitate to ask, but this is a good place to get started. Using technology can really help you out, but like I said, conversation, Excel sheet, notepads. I know that there's a lot of ways to do this, so let me know if I can be of service. But again, thank you for your viewership today. I hope you have a good one.